Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another online battle today. In this one, I take the Warriors of Chaos with all that Norsca hype into battle against Javier 1989's Bretonnia. Sigvald the Magnificent leads my army with his Auric Armor, Foe Seeker, and Standard Die. His Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows comes in with Smoke and Mirrors, Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, the Penumbral Pendulum, Pit of Shades, and Arcane Conduit. 2 units of Chaos Warriors and 2 units of Chaos Warriors with great weapons come in to deal with all manner of Bretonnian infantry alongside a unit of Aspiring Champions. 2 units of Forsaken make for great damage dealers that can act as pseudo-cavalry in this army, while the 2 units of Chaos Warhounds with Poison will work to slow enemy cavalry down, so my 4 units of Chaos Warriors with Halberds will be able to catch them. Louen leads Bretonnia with the Blessing of the Lady, the Lady's Champion, Beloved Son of Bretonnia, Foe Seeker, Stand Your Ground, the Lion's Shield, and the Sword of Gouron. His Damsel of Life comes in with Life Bloom, Earthblood, a Scroll of Shielding, and Arcane Conduit. A unit of Royal Hippogriff Knights and 2 units of Royal Pegasus Knights form quite the air force and will do a decent amount of work to shut down my cavalry and infantry alike. The 3 units of Foot Squires will do well against my infantry, and the 2 units of Men-at-Arms with polearms can shut down cavalry with relative ease, while the Grail Reliquae will provide much-needed morale support to the Bretonnians. Alright, as always, we're going to start with a conversation about deployment, and we keep it relatively simple on both sides of the field, I would say, this time. So let's start with my Warriors of Chaos. Now, you'll notice I do have a slightly strange shape here. That's just because I was pushing for a hopeful encirclement or an early double envelopment. Let's look at the line, though. It's relatively simple. On either end, I do have the Forsaken. These guys are extra fast, so they can sort of push through nice and early and come in with flanking and rear charges. Then I've got alternating Chaos Warriors and Chaos Warriors with great weapons across the rest of the line. So a little bit weaker on this left flank over here, but that's alright. I do have Prince Sigvald the Magnificent right there, able to push in to provide support if necessary, and these Aspiring Champions backing up the center, while the Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows is over here on the right, able to provide magical support as well. So it's a little bit weaker on the left, but that's fine. There's plenty of support right back here. Then, right behind these guys, I do have 2 units of Chaos Warriors with Halberds here, and another 2 units over here. And these guys, of course, able to shut down any enemy cavalry that might come charging in, or if any flyers coming in from the rears or decide to do something clever, I can just push these guys in and shut all that down. Meanwhile, all the way off to the side over here, hidden behind this little hill, I suppose, I have 2 units of Chaos Warhounds with Poison. This is in case Bretonnia was going to be a bit more aggressive. I wanted to use these guys to get some more surrounds going on. Otherwise, I can just push them forward and try and provide some support. Or if any flyers come in once again, push these guys in to slow them down and try to keep them on the ground. Now, with all that out of the way, let's take a look at Bretonnia. Again, relatively simple. The line itself is a little staggered. We do have the Foot Squires up front, 3 units, and then in between them in these gaps we do have these Men-at-Arms with polearms able to push in through those gaps if I came in with some large units. If I had some trolls, let's say, or if I had a Shaggoth or something pushing in through the front, these guys would be able to dive in relatively easily without having to get all muddled and provide some support. We do also have the Grail Reliquae right here, providing that morale support and the immunity to psychology, which is always great, while the Damsel of Life is back here as well, of course, able to keep these guys alive and fighting. While all the way to the left over here, we do have the entire Air Force, Louen alongside his Royal Hippogriff Knights and the 2 units of Royal Pegasus Knights. Again, these guys, very high mobility. They're able to do whatever they want, so they'll cause a decent amount of trouble if they decide to sort of hold their ground and battle over here, so to speak. Now, with all that out of the way, let's take a look at how this breaks down. It's a relatively quick battle. Relatively punchy as well. I'm at a bit of a disadvantage at the beginning. All I can see are actually his Air Force, so I'm a little worried that I'm being... that I'm going to have to deal with some serious trouble here, but he does push forward, and I realize he may have been able to see my Chaos Warhounds with Poison. Evidently he's not, but at the time I was a little worried about that, and he does start to push the rest of his army up as well. So I do rotate my army just in case he decides to dive in with the Air Force over here. I rotate my army a little bit, and it's a slight slow start, so we'll skip it up ever so slightly in speed. You'll see I'll pull my Chaos Warhounds with Poison back because I realize they're very isolated right now, and I do try to pull them towards my Warriors with Halberds over here, just because if the Royal Pegasus Knights, Royal Hippogriff Knights, or even Léon Coeur decide to get adventurous and dive in, I want to be able to respond and shut that nonsense down right away. Meanwhile, I'm obviously able to see the rest of the army, so I am pushing forward a bit more aggressively now, and you'll see over here, I do pop Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma on these Royal Pegasus Knights as they're about to dive into my Chaos Warhounds with Poison. I'm hoping to get some damage in before they actually do dive in, and then slow them down, of course, reduce the impact of their charge, and also slow them down once they get hit by some poison. So as they land, I turn my Chaos Warriors with halberds around and send them back right away just to shut that down, or at least scare them off. I don't want this damage to take place nice and early, and you'll see the Chaos Warhounds with poison take very minimal damage before the Royal Pegasus Knights are forced to retreat and take back to the air. So that works out quite well for me, and I do decide to keep these Chaos Warriors with halberds back here just to screen these rear entry points. I'm a little worried, of course. There are a lot of flyers there. They can come in from multiple directions, and I have some relatively slow halberdiers here rather than any Shaggots or anything like that, so it's a little precarious for me. I do send my Chaos Warhounds with poison off to this side over here just to join that potential envelopment maneuver that I'm hoping to pull off. And meanwhile, you'll see the rest of the army does push forward. These Forsaken get a little adventurous. I'm very concerned that he might dive in and crush those guys nice and early, but opts not to. Actually lets me push forward with some tranquility, actually allows me to push forward. This unit of Chaos Warhounds with poison, meanwhile, I do pull back just in case these guys, again, get a little adventurous. I decide that some poison in the backlines there is not a bad idea, just to keep these guys slowed down and pinned in place if necessary, while you'll see over here these men-at-arms with polearms are pushing to either flank, while my Forsaken are pushing in as well. So he does a good job of shutting down this flanking maneuver, making sure that I'm not able to get it done cleanly, and you'll see as my Forsaken are traveling through, they actually don't get decent charges off. They kind of get in from the side or the rear of this unit of men-at-arms with polearms and start causing some damage, while on that right flank, as seen from my perspective, I have sort of a head-on engagement against these men-at-arms with polearms, though I do have my Chaos Warhounds with poison pushing in further to actually complete that envelopment that I was hoping for from the get-go. Meanwhile, you'll see the Flyers are all pushing forward as well. They want to get involved while the frontline engagements are about to begin. So I've got these Chaos Warriors with great weapons and Chaos Warriors on that left flank, while I have these Chaos Warriors and these Chaos Warriors with great weapons diving into the foot squads, trying to get some hurt done, while the aspiring champions are being sent in, trying to take care of the men-at-arms with polearms. While you see over here, I do have the Chaos Warhounds with poison coming in with a nice rear charge into these men-at-arms with polearms and doing a lot of damage to morale and health, but you'll see the Royal Pegasus Knights do dive in right away. But on the left flank, I have to deal with the Royal Hippogriff Knights and Leon Coeur, and Leon Coeur does pop stand your ground, trying to help these guys out, make sure that these guys don't give up too easily, causing a decent amount of damage to my Forsaken. And again, this is my weaker flank, so I have to be very careful, because right now, over here is where the magical support is going down, and Prince Sigvald is focusing in the center here, so these guys are going to have a harder time holding. But on this right flank over here, I decide with two Royal Pegasus Knights is an opportune moment to pop the Pit of Shades, and a lot of damage goes through. Pit of Shades does a decent amount of work against cavalry as well as infantry, so you see that unit of men-at-arms with polearms is completely devastated, while the two units of Royal Pegasus Knights are dropped down to about half health from full health each, roughly. So overall, that Pit of Shades does a lot of work, while this unit of Chaos Warhounds with poisons does push through and get another rear charge. So you'll see that slow envelopment now, pushing in really hard, while these Chaos Warriors with halberds are pushing in as well to try and take care of these Royal Pegasus Knights. And as they were retreating over here, and they get pinned down by the Chaos Warhounds with poison and the Warriors with halberds, and meanwhile the Sword of Gouron does go down, causing a little bit of trouble for me, but unfortunately for Leon Coeur, it does run out just as he engages Prince Sigvald. So Sigvald's going to do a decent amount of work there, while over here you'll see I have my Chaos Warriors with halberds taking care of the men-at-arms with polearms, while this unit of Chaos Warriors with halberds is actually pushing in to try and get a sort of side charge into these foot squares, while back here this unit of Forsaken, again, able to just push through and try and get a rear charge into these men-at-arms with polearms. And take a look at how much damage these guys do as they dive in. Just take a look at this. They dive in, nice rear charge, and instantaneously these men-at-arms with polearms are giving up. They do not want to stick around and fight. That rear charge causes a lot of physical damage, but a ton of morale damage as well. So that left flank now has been supported and completely taken care of, while in the center here you'll see the Royal Hippogriff Knights are causing a decent amount of damage alongside Louen and Leon Coeur, but I do have my halberdiers here pushing in to shut these guys down, while the Damsel of Life has been completely, more or less, broken. At least her will has been broken by these Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Now, these Chaos Warhounds with poison, unfortunately, are sort of standing there, looking pretty, not doing anything. I should have sent them in for another rear charge, or at least chasing some of these guys off, but at this time, I felt pretty confident that the battle was in my hands, and I didn't have too much to worry about. I do have Louen Leon Coeur surrounded here. Sigvald is having a great time beating away at him. Pops Foe Seeker just to, I think it was to close a charge earlier, and over here as well, I have the Grail Relique shut down. I want to have it taken care of, get rid of its support if the Bretonnians decide to come back into the field. And at this point, the Air Force is all the way back here. It's very neutered. It's been very taken care of, and over here as well, I'm just shutting these guys down. Don't really have much to worry about, and you'll see the Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows as well pushing forward to cast Cost Mystifying Miasma, but completely unnecessary as the entire Bretonnian force gives up for a close victory for the Warriors of Chaos. Now, my opponent did a good job holding my flanking maneuver back at first, but with a Pit of Shades, I was able to complete a single envelopment, allowing me to get rear charges in and deal a tremendous amount of morale damage. It also helped that the Forsaken were later able to push into the left flank and completely devastate the Bretonnian left flank as well, allowing for that eventual double envelopment, though by that time, it wasn't really necessary. It seems the Bretonnians may have expected a cavalry-heavy force or perhaps a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, but the Warriors of Chaos have strong anti-large abilities among their infantry, and that's usually the route I go against Bretonnia, with Forsaken there to shut down enemy range support. As always, for more Total War content, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Total Breakdown and my own online battles continue on, and once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.